Hey everyone, welcome to Relatively Refined. My name is Paula. I'm so glad you're joining me today. In today's video, we're going to head over to one of my favorite little shops here in town, and then after we've taken in all the Christmas inspiration, we'll head back to the house where I'll share with you a very easy and delicious recipe, and then a craft project inspired by our shopping trip. All right, let's get started. The shop that we're going to head into today is called Cottage Down South, and it's located in Summerville, South Carolina. I have been in there with y'all one time before, but it was probably well over a year ago, and I don't think I've been in the store since that time, so I was pleasantly surprised to see all of their beautiful Christmas items on display. The store is located right across the street from the French Mercantile, so if you're ever in Summerville, it makes a great day to go visit the Summerville Antiques Gallery, the French Mercantile, and Cottage Down South. All of them are fabulous shops that I've taken you to before. One of the things that caught my eye right away was this beautiful little red and white plate with the spreader and the tartan tea towel. What a gorgeous little gift. In fact, I thought about it for my Secret Santa at school. They had a whole section with a display of cardinal items. I love cardinals, and they say that when you see a cardinal, it's the spirit of somebody who has passed away coming to let you know that they're okay. And for that reason, I always have had a fondness for cardinals. In fact, there's nothing more beautiful than a bright red cardinal against the snow in the wintertime in Vermont. I absolutely loved these ribbon trees. They were so pretty with the tartan ribbon and the green velvet. Absolutely adorable. You can probably hear Phoebe walking around in the background. The dogs are never far away from me. Here we have some beautiful little retro items. That Santa Claus book, Santa Claus and the Lost Kitten or Mitten. I'm not sure which one it was. I think Kitten. Adorable. I love a good vintage Santa Claus. Those little sleighs, also very, very cute. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to Christmas decorations. I love the traditional red and green, silver and gold. I tend to use those colors in my house, although I know some people prefer a more neutral Christmas or maybe a more colorful Christmas or a non-traditional color, but for me, I prefer the red and green. I thought this gingerbread pillow was really cute. Gingerbread is very popular this year. I've seen it all over. So I think that's probably one of the things that is going to be popular in everybody's decor this year is the gingerbread theme. There's another look at those beautiful ribbon trees and the sleighs. This cute little reindeer serving dish was very, very adorable with Rudolph's red nose. It put me in such a good mood walking around and looking at everything. They had a few trees set up with different ornaments on them. So beautiful. And because we are a coastal community, or we live near the coast, there's a lot of coastal influence in this shop. They had some beautiful driftwood tree toppers, which I think I will show you in just a minute. They had some ornaments that were very coastal in nature. They were made out of oyster shells, or they were sea turtles. Very, very cute if you were doing kind of a coastal theme in your tree. There's Santa on an inner tube. And here's a look at those driftwood tree topper angels. Those would be beautiful in a neutral Christmas decor, I know that some people are really into that kind of neutral look for their decor. Again, I'm a red and green gal, so I like the pops of red and the beautiful green, gold and silver. This tree was definitely done in blue and white. It was very pretty, and it had some lovely ornaments on it. Here's some little chinoiserie birds and this gorgeous ribbon, velvet ribbon on these wooden spools. I thought they were beautiful, and I just loved how they looked all together. That would make such a pretty display in a big wooden bowl to have different spools of ribbon. These beautiful blue and white stockings were also something that I really, really liked. Again, I do red and green, as I've said, but I do love blue and white, so those certainly caught my eye. And then this wall hanging was stunning. It is Silent Night, and it shows, the musical bars up above, and then it has a beautiful snowy scene down below. And the woman who owned the shop said that they sold the first one 2 minutes after she put it up. Someone was in the store when she was hanging it on the wall, and they purchased it. So that was the second one they put up there. It was absolutely beautiful. That chinoiserie Christmas tree, really pretty. I love that. And the little brass quail with the blue and white looks so pretty together. Another look at those gorgeous spools of velvet ribbon. The blue and white certainly gives kind of that frosty feel, and it's something you could certainly leave up well past the holidays, right on into January and February, and it would be absolutely beautiful. In fact, when I take down my Christmas decor, I think I might consider doing some more blue and white for the rest of the winter. I thought those candles that looked like trees with the blue and gold accents on them were absolutely beautiful. And then here's a more neutral look. It's the white and green. I find that very soothing and calming. Again, this is a look that you could take right on past the holidays. I think that when you take the red out and you just have the green and white, or the green and natural, that it's something that could go, beyond Christmas and again into January and possibly February, depending on your climate. In an upcoming video, I'm thinking about really sharing some inspiration for different styles of Christmas decorating. I think that would just be really fun. I always love to learn about new things and see different types of inspiration that might be something different than what I would do. So I may be bringing that to you. Be on the lookout for that. Be sure you're subscribed. All right, let's head on back to the house and head into the kitchen to do a little cooking and crafting. What I'm going to show you right now is how I use up my sourdough starter discard. So I have some sourdough starter that I actually purchased from King Arthur Flour Company, and it's probably, well, I think they say that it's at least 20 years old. So it's been going. It's not that exact starter hasn't been around for 20 years, but it's been going for 20 years. So it's a very robust starter. And what I usually do is I keep it in my fridge and feed it maybe once a week, unless I'm really planning to make something. But I hadn't fed it in a while, so I thought I would get it out and feed it over the course of a couple of days to kind of get it very active again. And what you have to do is you discard a bunch of that, and you keep a little bit of the starter, and you feed the little bit, and you discard the rest. So there are lots of things that you can do with sourdough starter discard. And I was looking through the King Arthur website, and I came upon a recipe for sourdough discard English muffins. So that's what I'm going to show you. They're very, very easy. They don't require any additional flour. They just take some of the starter, salt, sugar, and baking powder, and that is it. And they are so good. I thought I would share this very simple recipe with you in case you happen to have some sourdough starter discard lying around and you need to know what to do with it. So let me go ahead and first feed my starter, and then I'll show you what I do with the discard. So here is my sourdough starter, and you can see that it is almost to the top of this mason jar. This morning when I left for school, it was down right here. So it's really gotten very puffy and it's quite active. So let me show you what I'm going to do now and how I feed this sourdough starter. So I'll put you back up on the tripod and show you what I do. Okay, so it's a 1-to-1-to-1 formula for feeding my sourdough. So the first thing I do is I put a new jar on the scale and I tear the scale out so it's zeroed out. And let me grab a spoon. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my starter and kind of stir it up, and you can see that it's very, very robust. I'm going to stir this up, and then I'm going to add about 125 grams of starter to this jar. That's a little more, that's like 146, so I'm going to take a little bit out. It's not necessarily a completely exact science, but so that's about 127. That's 127 grams of the starter. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab my handy dandy jar filler and put it on here, and then zero the scale out again. And I'm going to add 127 grams of flour to this. So I'm just going to add the flour to this. That's about 130 or so grams of flour, which is fine. And then I'm going to add 130 or so grams of water. And I use distilled water because if there are chemicals or chlorine in your water, that can kill your starter. So I'm going to zero my scale out one more time. And now I'm going to add 127 or so, 130 grams of the starter. All right, now that's done. I'm just going to take my spoon and stir this up. Get it off the scale here. I'll stir this up so it's thoroughly mixed. And then I'm just going to set that aside. So that's mixed, and you can see that it goes to about 1/3 of the jar. So I'm going to loosely put the top back on, and I'll set this aside, and then I'm going to show you how I make the crumpets. All right, now for the crumpet mix, I'm going to take a cup of this is what we call the discard right here, and normally you would just honestly throw this away unless you were going to make something with it. So I'm going to take a cup of the discard and pour that out. And that's almost all the discard, which is great. So I don't feel like I'm wasting anything. And there are lots of recipes that you can make with sourdough discard. I don't always have the time to make it because, I'm working and I come home and it's late or whatever. But these English muffins or crumpets are super easy to make. All right, so here's my starter. So I'm going to add that to my bowl. Get all that starter out. And then to that starter, I'm going to add a teaspoon of white sugar. Basically, we're kind of feeding the natural yeast of the starter. So I'll add a teaspoon of sugar. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which, hang on one second, I forgot to grab that. So let me grab the salt. All right, I'm going to add a scant 1/4 cup of salt. And then I'm going to add I'm sorry, not 1/4 cup. That would be quite salty. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to add 3/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. One, two, three. All right. Now I'll just give that a little stir, and almost immediately the sugar is going to begin to feed that natural yeast, and it will it will sort of bubble a little bit and get very billowy, and that's what it's doing right now. So I'm going to stir that and let that sit for just 1 minute while that sugar activates with the naturally occurring yeast in the sourdough starter. And then I'll take you over to the stove and show you how we make the crumpets. Okay, so what I have is a nonstick pan heating up over medium heat. It's supposed to get to a roughly 300 degrees. And I have lightly sprayed some cooking oil on there, which they say to do even if it is a nonstick pan. And then in ideal circumstances, you'd have what's called a crumpet ring or an English muffin ring. I have ordered those, but they haven't come in yet. So mine are going to be freeform. So you take about a 1/4 cup of the dough, and then I'm going to add that to the pan. Hold on, girls, I'll be right there. The girls know that it's time for them to eat, and they are standing at the pantry by where their food is, waiting for me to be done doing what I'm doing. And I'm just going to pour out the dough, the starter dough, and you're going to cook it just kind of like you do pancakes, which is until the top is full of bubbles. Okay. And this makes roughly 4 good-sized English muffins. Now, they'll be uniform, of course, when I get the crumpet rings. But I'm going to try to spread them out and make them as round as I can. But they're just going to be a little odd-shaped for now. I'm going to scrape the rest of this dough over here. Phoebe, hold up. I'll get you some ice in just a minute. She's back at her ice. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to let these cook over medium heat while I get the dogs some food and some ice. And then when they're full of holes, I'll come and show you. And that's the time when we're going to gently flip them over. Let me just make sure this is kind of on medium heat. All right. All right, so you can see that some holes or bubbles are starting to form on the top here as they're cooking. And it's just like a pancake. When the top is pretty well covered with those little bubbles that have burst, then it's time to turn them over. So these have another couple of minutes. It takes about 5 minutes for the bubbles to all form on there over medium heat. So these are about ready to turn. So you can see that they're nice and golden brown on that side. I'm just going to flip them over and let them cook for just a couple minutes on this side. And they've puffed up nicely. And when you cut them apart, just like an English muffin, they're full of all those nooks and crannies, and they are absolutely delicious. So we'll let these cook here for just a few minutes, and then I'll take them off the heat. All right, so these are probably nice and golden on the other side. Yes, they are. And you can see they look just like an English muffin. And when you cut them open, as I said, they are full of all those delicious nooks and crannies. Let me turn my oven off, or my stove off, and I'll get these onto a plate. And then you can let them cool, and you can store them in your pantry. You can freeze them, or you can eat them right up, which is probably what you'll want to do because they are really delicious. All right, here they are. They're still hot, really so good. My daughter had one this morning with an egg, and she said it was excellent. So a very, very easy way to use up your sourdough starter discard that doesn't require any additional flour. And the good thing about that also is that all of the flour, in theory, in this is fermented, so it's very good for your gut health. And even people who have a gluten intolerance can tolerate the sourdough bread without the additional flour better than, if it had additional flour. Now, I'm not saying these are gluten-free because they are by no means gluten-free, but people who have a sensitivity and not necessarily a gluten allergy can tolerate these a lot better. They don't seem to have as much stomach upset as they might with full gluten English muffins. Well, now that we've done the cooking, let's try a fun little craft project. This project was inspired by those beautiful ribbon trees that we saw at Cottage down south. So I pulled together some tartan ribbon, some velvet ribbon, and then a cardboard cone shape, and of course a glue gun. Those were all the supplies that I thought I needed to give this a go. Now, I didn't have any instructions or any videos or any tutorials to follow, so I was just kind of making this up as I went along, and I think it turned out okay. There are some things I might do differently, but the first thing that I did was to cut a bunch of the ribbon into about 3-inch strips, and those strips I'm going to fold into little points. So you take the ribbon and you kind of fold it over on itself to form a point. And then I took my glue gun and just tacked that down so it would stay in that shape. If you have a low temp glue gun, that would be the best tool for this job because you do have to handle the ribbon and it is thin. So you don't want to burn yourself. And here we are, part of the way through. I just glued those little ribbon points on the tree in a kind of circular manner. And I added some of the green velvet in there just as they had in the ribbon trees that we saw. And then here is a look at the finished product. I think I'm going to find a little gold star to glue on the top, but other than that, I think it's pretty cute and I'm very happy with the way it turned out. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. My sisters and I appreciate you. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, we'd love to have you as one of our YouTube family members, and be sure to hit the notification bell so that you will be notified whenever we post a new video. Leave a comment, give us a thumbs up. We'd love the interaction with you. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for today. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.